I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. My guest today is Julia Israel. She is a respected leader in the Twin Cities real estate community. Over the past 18 years, she's owned several real estate-related businesses and trained and coached hundreds of real estate professionals. She's a licensed real estate broker in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and she serves as the productivity coach for Keller Williams Realty Integrity Lakes, which is located in uptown Minneapolis. She's currently the president of Twin Cities National Association of Real Estate Brokers. It's called NAREB, and is the oldest black trade association in the country. She serves on the board of directors for the Minnesota Association of Realtors and the Housing Opportunity Committee for the National Association of Realtors. She's on other boards and committees as well. One thing that I can say about her is that she's got a passion for building stronger communities by promoting home ownership, especially in diverse neighborhoods. She's the co-founder and chair of the Umoja Community Development Corporation, UCDC. It's a nonprofit that works to build inclusive communities where people can attain home ownership and benefit from community. Julia, welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you back. We've had this conversation before.
We have.
But we can't talk enough about the importance of home ownership and wealth building in our community. And so I, for one, am pleased that you've taken a leadership role over a long period of time to continue to sound the alarm about the value of becoming a homeowner. But I'll let you talk about why this passion exists in you and what the message is for our viewers and our listeners.
Okay. Well, the reason it's tremendously important to me is that there's a lot of different ways that people in general build wealth. And really the best way that I know of to build wealth, sometimes even better than any stock or bond, is through real estate. And particularly as African Americans, as the black community, that is an area where we don't have a lot of ownership in real estate, especially in Minnesota. We have the lowest home ownership rate in the country, in a state that holds the highest home ownership rate in general.
So the gap is huge.
The gap is very, very large. And if people are building wealth through real estate and we don't have any, that's a problem. So I'm very passionate about making sure that people understand what that means to own real estate, understand what it means as far as using real estate as a vehicle for their families to build wealth as a legacy, and making sure that we really promote home ownership to get people into houses, not just to get into the house, but for the longevity of it.
What is it that we don't understand about the importance of equity and owning a house? And I want to raise that question, but only as a beginning of the conversation, because I don't want to leave the impression that there's something inadequate in us that keeps us out of home ownership. There are conditions that are environmental and structural that are part of this as well. But part of it has to be what our internal drive is.
Correct.
What is it that we need to be more attuned to be persistent and effective in pursuing equity and ownership?
That's a really, really good question, particularly because recently I had the pleasure of being on the radio show with a woman who is the director of Mapping Prejudice Project, and they went into the history of how it got like this. It didn't just get like this because we didn't want to buy homes or we were lazy or anything like that. It was very intentional that we were kept out of buying homes and owning homes. And so, you know, they were speaking a lot about the history of how it became this way. So I'm glad that you brought up the point. It's not just because we didn't have the desire or the drive to own. We were intentionally shut out of owning homes and buying homes. You know, and they have been doing some history on deed restrictions that prevented us from buying houses. Since then, however, you know, we can always go back in history of what did happen to us, but where is our responsibility in that now? And really what I would say to that is that just getting the education of, you're right, a lot of it is not self-imposed. We didn't self-impose poverty on ourselves, you know, but understanding what that means and getting educated about what homeownership is. A lot of people don't even know what the term equity means, you know, so what is equity? How do I get money? You know, what that means, what equity is it means you have cash value, you have money, wealth, you know, and people don't even in that aspect, understand what exactly that means to the family. So first, I think, is just for us, and the reason that I'm so passionate about it is primarily because I want to educate people about what that means. What is the value of buying a home? What does equity mean? Why is it relevant to us? And what would that change if more of us had it? You know. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Well,
but
it begins the discussion.
Yeah.
You know, it's important to have the conversation, I believe. As you were talking, I was remembering Al McFarlane as a 20-year-old. And the thought came to mind of when a North Side business owner approached me about getting life insurance. And at 20, I might have been 22, 23, but at that age, I thought I was invincible and that I would live forever. And that insurance was for people that were weak and that thought they were going to die, which I never would.
Right,
so
yeah.
The question is, how does a guy that's college educated become so stupid, you know, and operate so blindly with misinformation and disinformation that really deserves him, his family, and those who follow him? How do we wake up and raise up our young people into the reality of the critical need to understand money and to not be funny about money, to know money has a purpose in our lives and that we're okay with money not controlling us, but using money to build communities, lifestyles that work for us. What do you think about that? And
I think that kind of ties into your last question of like, where's our responsibility in that? So people like us who now understand, it's our civic duty to explain to the other people who don't understand and help them see what that looks like. And I think that goes back to even how media, you know, and TV and radio show us sometimes, if people don't see someone who looks like them, who is successful, and say, hey, how did you get that way? You know, how did you get all that money? How did you send your kids to college with no debt? You know, how did you do those things? If we're not vocal about it and sharing that information with other people, they won't know, and they will remain ignorant. You know, and not intentionally, just don't know. People don't know what they don't know. I talk to a lot of people, and I'm frequently surprised by things people thought or things they just didn't know. And really, what everybody says at the end of the conversation is, I just didn't know what I didn't know. So a lot of that responsibility is on the people who have overcome that and have like, you know what, I did buy a house and this is what I was able to do with it, or I got insurance and this is why I did it. Not just hoarding that information for yourself,
but sharing it.
But being willing to share it with everybody else in the community and being vocal about the reason you did it, how you did it, who you used to do it, where you went to get the information, and it is our responsibility to share that with each other because people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, and so you're doing that not only on a personal level, but on an organizational and institutional level. I mentioned that you are the president of Twin Cities National Association of Real Estate Brokers, NAREB.
Yeah.
And you guys make that a mission and a passion, a place where people that are passionate like you can channel getting education, destroying ignorance in our community. Talk about NAREB as an organization and what's on the table right now.
Okay, so NAREB is, we in short call it the Black Real Estate Association, but NAREB is a national association. They've got chapters all around the country, many of them very large, but it began long ago because as real estate professionals, we did not used to be able to belong to the National Association of Realtors. So NAREB was where Black people went to do the real estate business. And it exists today really for a lot of the same reasons. You know, we still have the same challenges, the same advocacy is required. So that's why it exists. And locally, our chapter was established about 4 years ago, and we found that there were a lot of Black real estate professionals kind of doing their own thing, you know, separately. Good work, a lot of good work happening here and there, but we really are a lot stronger when we come together. I kind of thought about that when I was trying to put my hair in this little ponytail this morning, and the one little rubber band I used broke, you know, so I put 3 of them together, and then you know, it's a lot stronger that way, and it's still holding up, you know. It's 2 o'clock and it's still holding up. But it's kind of the same concept. We were individually doing different things throughout the community, but when we come together, it's a lot stronger, and our voice is heard a lot more, and we are able to put our resources together. So that's what our Twin Cities chapter is about. We do a lot of advocacy, and we do a lot of education. we do a lot of education, not only for the community, but for even our members. Because, there's a lot of things I don't know about insurance. I'm not an insurance agent. I'm a realtor, and so we learn from each other things we don't know. So collectively, we can go out as a group and educate the rest of the community. We actually have a really big event coming up on April 13th, and you're hosting, you're going to be the moderator for our panels.
Right, yeah.
On April 13th at the Minneapolis Public School building right there on Broadway, from 10 to, don't get me to lie, 10 to 2, I believe is the time. 10 to 2, yeah. 10 to 2, but there'll be many vendors, and a lot of them are the organizations that we work for, represented, giving information about insurance, about home buyer education, about down payment assistance, about real estate services, about all kinds of different things to educate our community. So what our chapter is really about is, one, advocacy in the community and making sure that you're not passing any bills that we don't know about, because sometimes that happens. Or people will consult with other agencies that aren't us, for us, or by us. We want to make sure that if it's concerning us, we're involved in that conversation.
We're at the table.
Yeah, and so that's what we're about. And then we're educating each other, and then using that information in numbers to go out and educate our community. So that's our most recent coming up event, is the April 13th Home Buyer Expo. Yeah.
How much resistance to adopting knowledge and adopting change is there in our community? What are the barriers that you observe in our own people towards changing, lifestyle changing perspectives, so that we have a more proper and accurate view of the real world?
Fear.
Fear.
Yep.
Yeah.
It almost always boils down to fear. Even in clients that we help, and they are in the homeowner, they decided, yes, I understand now, I got the information, I want to do this for my family, I'm going to move forward. Even through the whole process, they're fighting fear.
Okay.
A fear of failure, fear of not knowing enough, fear of being taken. A lot of people did purchase homes, back before the market crashed, and got misinformation from people that did look like us,
and burned.
And they got burned, and
Yeah.
they hear about that, and they know about that, and they're afraid that will happen to them. So a lot of it is mainly fear of maybe if I go to the lender, they're going to reject me. I don't want to be rejected.
I've heard this story, you've heard it before too, where the story is that for a white person seeking a mortgage, he applies or she applies at one bank, gets accepted, and then goes to bank 2, bank 3, bank 4, shopping for the best rates, the best deal. For the average African-American consumer, he or she shops, and fear is guiding the shopping. And when the first banker says, I can do this mortgage for you, but it's at a crazy interest rate, so happy to get it, so happy to not be rejected that you accept the first deal and you don't go and compare. Is that still a real story?
It's still a real story, or worse, they go to that first banker and they say, I can't help you. And that's the story they live with.
Okay, and that's it.
That's it.
They're
They
done.
don't go
Locked
to
up.
bank 2 or 3 or 4. They just stop at 1 and say, well, no, I can't. That's not for me. They told me no.
So what's the role of Al McFarlane? What's the role of media? This program, Conversations with Al McFarlane, what can we do to help change the narrative, to create a new narrative so that our people both have knowledge and with knowledge power to make proper decisions? What do you think?
I think what would be really helpful is just showing the other side of that. A lot of times different organizations or people will talk about all the stuff we don't have and why we can't have it and why we're the least of, but showing the people that do have and how we got it and where we're at now, showing it in a positive image, because there's a lot of people that have it, but the problem is,
And it can be done.
they don't know them.
That's right.
That's
right.
And so, just exposing the positiveness of it can be done, and hearing from people. At the expo, we'll have some homeowners actually speak, like, I too was afraid, I too did this, but here's where I am now. When people see that in the media, and that's what's presented, they realize that, hey, they look like me, and they did it, and they got the same credit score I got, and they realize it is actually a feasible thing that they can attain.
Julia, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Al.
Is there a contact name, number, or a place that people
Yes.
can reach you for information? or
First,
email?
I'll give you our website for NAREB. It is NAREBTC, that's NAREBTC.com, and you can find information about NAREB there. Or feel free to go to my website. It's got all the information about the upcoming event that we have, and that's JuliaIsrael.com.
Excellent. Thank
Yep.
you so much. Thank you, Julia
Thank
Israel.
you.
Thanks also to these companies in Twin Cities that support this program, the Home Ownership Alliance.
Yes, the Home Ownership
an
Alliance,
important
yes.
sister organization to NAREB,
Yes.
I believe. And thanks to Old National Bank for supporting these conversations about home ownership and wealth creation in our community. See you next time. I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane.